Welcome to my series of basketball videos where I'll be comparing various NBA greats against each other. I'm doing this because I find that a lot of the basketball videos comparing players on YouTube are too focused on the big names and sometimes compare players from different positions. Lots of people compare Jordan to LeBron and Kobe to Duncan, for example, due to their similar levels of achievements, but since those players play different positions and have different styles of play, it's not an interesting comparison. In this series, I want to do comparisons between not just more well-known players, but players from days past, in the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, and the ABA as well, that most modern fans probably do not have too much knowledge about. Also, as much as possible, I want to compare players that play similar positions and/or similar play styles. To me, that's a more interesting and fruitful comparison. I'll be using 8 different metrics to judge each player. Scoring. This category will be defined by each player's career points per game, peak points per game, both regular season and playoffs, and number of scoring titles. Rebounding. This category will be defined by each player's career rebounds per game, peak rebounds per game, both regular season and playoffs, and number of rebounding titles. Passing. This category will be defined by each player's career assists per game, peak assists per game, both in regular season and playoffs, and number of assist titles. Efficiency advanced metrics. This category will be defined by each player's career true shooting percentage, PER, and win shares per 48. Reason I use true shooting percentage is because it's more fair to guards. Defense. This category will be defined by each player's all defensive selections, defensive win shares, and defensive player of the year awards. The reason I'm not using blocks, steals, or defensive box plus minus is because I want to compare the achievements of older players that modern fans might not have too much knowledge about, and players in the 1960s and early 1970s do not have these stats tracked. Awards. This category will be defined by all-star appearances, all-NBA selections, MVPs, finals MVPs, and championships as a top 3 player. The reason I have to count championships as a top 3 player on the team is because otherwise, you'll get into the situation where, for example, Robert Horry has 7 rings and Karl Malone has 0, and it's not representative of how much better a player is if you weren't a top 3 player on that team contributing to a championship. Also, I'll be including ABA stats and awards and using them equivalent to their respective NBA stats and awards. Also, no All-NBA third team selections are included because All-NBA third teams weren't added until the late 1980s, which is unfair to older players. Playoffs. This category will be defined by how many Eastern Conference Finals or Western Conference Finals and Finals a player has been to, and how many championships they won as a top 3 player on the team. Yes, this is supplementary to the awards category because it also rewards players for making it far in the playoffs, even if they don't necessarily win at all. Totals. This category will be defined by longevity, how many total points, rebounds, assists, and win shares a player has accumulated throughout their career, and rewards a player's durability. After all, a lot of people say the best ability is availability. And of course, this is only going to be my opinion from comparing the available metrics, since I've not watched most of these players live or even been born when some of these players have been playing. And to keep it fair, I'm judging them based on how they did in their own era. There's no comparing what this NBA player played in today's era or the 1960s, none of that. It'll be strictly based on their stats and accomplishments within their own era against that era's competition, which makes the most sense to me. So I hope you guys enjoy this comparison video and hopefully learn something new from it. The 32nd episode in the series looks at 2 star point guards of the modern era. Both of whom are known for their clutch shooting, their handles, and their skilled defensive repertoire. Damian Lillard is a star player of the Portland Trail Blazers, an NBA 75 team member and an anomaly of the modern era, because he has stayed with the same team that has drafted him for 10 seasons so far, a loyal superstar who has wowed crowds with his long-range shooting and clutch abilities. Kyrie Irving is perhaps best known as being one of the greatest ball handlers of all time, and for his career first as a Cleveland Cavalier, helping to bring that franchise a championship alongside LeBron James, and for his current stint with the Brooklyn Nets alongside Kevin Durant. But which player had the greater career? Let's find out. In the scoring category, both players are known to be scoring point guards. They are part of the modern era of point guards who are just as likely to be breaking down defenders as they are passing the ball. Dame averages 24.7 points per game for his career, peaking at 30 points per game in 2020, and raises his averages to 25.7 points per game in the playoffs, peaking at an insane 34.3 points per game in 2021. Kyrie averages 23.1 points per game for his career, peaking at 27.4 points per game in 2020 and 2022, and 23.3 points per game in the playoffs, peaking at 25.9 points per game in 2017. This category is actually very close. Although Dame's averages and peaks are higher than Kyrie's, I have to believe that part of the reason is because Dame is relied upon more as his team's primary scorer, whereas Kyrie had to share the ball more with either LeBron or KD, and thus wasn't his team's primary scorer as much. This is reflected in the per 36-minute stat, where they have exactly the same scoring average when their usage rate is normalized. Kyrie is known for his otherworldly handles and his ability to break down a defender on the dribble and driving in, but he's also a great shooter as well. In fact, his 3-point percentage is a few points higher than Dame's. Dame is also a great ball handler and shooter as well, and also able to break down a defender on the drive or hit a long-range bomb. I know this is a controversial decision because Dame's scoring average looks higher on paper, but I really do believe that both of these guys have the ability to break down anyone 1 versus 1 and score on them equally well. So I have to go and call this category a tie. In the rebounding category, both players are decent rebounders for their position. Dame averages 4.2 rebounds per game for his career, peaking at 4.9 per game in 2017, and 4.5 rebounds a game in the playoffs, peaking at 5.1 in 2014. Kyrie averages 3.8 rebounds per game for his career, peaking at 5.2 per game in 2020, and 3.7 rebounds per game in the playoffs, peaking at 5.8 per game in 2021. Although, again, Dame's averages look a bit higher on paper, Kyrie actually has higher peak rebounding averages, and I also believe Kyrie has the ability to rebound just as well, but he's also played with more All-Stars during his career, which generally brings down Kyrie's averages in this sense. So I do think that their rebounding abilities are quite similar. In this category, will end up being a tie as well. In the passing category, there's definitely a clear winner here. Dame averages 6.7 assists per game for his career, peaking at 8 assists per game in 2020, and 6.2 assists per game in the playoffs, peaking at a John Stockton-like 10.2 per game in 2021. Kyrie averages 5.7 assists per game for his career, peaking at 6.9 per game in 2019, and 4.8 assists per game in the playoffs, peaking at 7 assists per game in 2019. Both players are solid playmakers as they play primarily as point guards, but Dame definitely has the edge here as he averages a full assist per game more on average, as well as having noticeably higher peaks as well. While Kyrie is a very respectable passer, Dame's passing proves that he could play as a pure PG if his team needs him to, but he ends up having to carry most of his team on offense for both playmaking and scoring. So this category will go to Dame. In the efficiency and advanced metrics category, it's interesting because Kyrie is actually a more efficient shooter from either mid-range or 3-point range compared to Dame, but Dame draws more fouls, which leads to him having a higher true shooting percentage. Both players were almost automatic at the charity stripe. This one is also too close to call. Although Dame has slight advantage in 2 categories, it's not enough for me to say that he's clearly better in this category, so this one will have to be a tie as well. In the defense category, neither Dame or Kyrie were known to be great defenders, and this really reflects in their low defensive win shares and no all-defensive selections for either of them. I would say this category is also a tie, as both of them are very mediocre defenders, and neither really stands out here. The awards category is interesting as both players have a decent number of All-Star selections, but Dame has many more All-NBA first and second team selections, whereas Kyrie has a championship as the second best player on the team. So what matters more, a championship or more All-NBA selections? It could definitely be argued that Dame was considered the better player for most of their careers as evidenced by those All-NBA selections, but Kyrie has the award that everyone really cares about in a career, which is the championship. So I'm going to split the difference here and also call this one a tie. In the playoffs category, this one easily goes to Kyrie, as he went to 3 NBA Finals in a row alongside LeBron and won a championship, whereas Dame has only reached 1 Western Conference Finals in his entire career. In the longevity category, this one easily goes to Dame, as Dame is a much more available player. Kyrie has had a strange career in the sense that he hasn't had that many games, not just because of injuries, but because of various beliefs that has kept him from playing. There always seems to be some sort of drama alongside Kyrie which prevents him from playing at his full capacity. So this category will easily go to Dame. So when all the categories are summed up, Damian Lillard takes the passing and totals category while Kyrie Irving takes the playoffs category, with the rest being a tie, giving Dame the edge. I was being quite generous to Kyrie this video, but it's clear that there's a reason why Dame was chosen to be on the NBA 75 team and Kyrie was not. Damian Lillard is a player who has to be respected. A very talented player who plays for a small market team like the Trailblazers, has been loyal to that team despite not having a single All-Star teammate since LaMarcus Aldridge left the team, and has been putting up highlight reels day after day. His talent is undeniable, but I can't help feeling bad for him as his legacy could have been so much more had he either gone to a better team or gotten better teammates to play with. Kyrie Irving, on the other hand, is quite a different story than Dame. He left a successful Cavs team that had LeBron James and Kevin Love on it to try to make it by himself in Boston, but then failed and went instead to play with another superstar in Kevin Durant on the Nets, which also hasn't led to anything so far. Despite Kyrie's talent and his all-time ball handling skills, it seems that he's a very demanding superstar to play with, always causing distractions and drama wherever he goes. One must think that Dame would have loved to be in Kyrie's situation, to play with guys on the caliber of LeBron and KD, but Kyrie seems to have taken this for granted and instead squandered these opportunities away, which is very unfortunate for his career as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this comparison. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next comparison video.